Look, it's such a fantastic conference. I've scribbled so many notes and I've learned so much from all of the contributions, and it really is a complete privilege to be here. And you know, thank you to Tegwin and the team, and congratulations to the Academy for all the work you're doing to support the well-being of leaders. I hope I speak for others who are here from the English side of the border to say we increasingly look towards Wales with somewhat envy in terms of some of the work that you're doing. So real congratulations, and long may it continue. So I'm bringing to this session with you this afternoon some of the insights that I've gained and some of the things I've learned from working with over 800 school leaders over the last 2 years, particularly, helping them to really navigate these turbulent times, to stay sane in what feels like an insane world. And indeed, and for me and for them, very importantly, helping them to still thrive and flourish through these times of extreme uncertainty. And much of this work, which I'm going to share with you, has been about helping leaders to attend to and balance their attention and remain fully present, balanced and calm in the most turbulent of times. And this work that I do is all done through the lens of mindfulness, which has been mentioned a few times this morning. And I've seen the huge power it has had as a leadership practice, which can then be applied to the day-to-day work of leaders. It resonates so much with them. The applicability of it resonates so much with them. And importantly, is beginning to help them to renew and sustain their leadership for a lifetime. And that's the theme I'm going to be sharing with you today. And the navigation of attention is about being very aware where we are placing our attention as leaders. What's our attention being drawn to on a daily basis? And my firm belief, after working for many, many years with school leaders, is that the most effective leaders and the most compassionate leaders, and those who are a bit like David described this morning, terrific role models for others, attend to their attention 50% focused outwardly on the job, on the tasks, on what's going on around them, and 50% focused inwardly on their inner world, knowing their emotions and being able to handle them skillfully, being aware of their thoughts, cultivating a wise relationship with their thoughts, connecting with their bodies. So as leaders, we're not heads that drag our bodies round for the day, that we're wholly connected and wholly present. And certainly over the last 2 years, the areas that I've been working on, which I hope resonate with you, are in terms of that inner world, handling anxiety, self-doubt. The decisions that you've had to make have been significant, sometimes life and death decisions. Becoming aware of the inner critic, the voice in the head, imposter syndrome that tells you you're not good enough and one day you'll be found out. Handling distraction and developing focus and clarity of mind. And at the same time, working to cultivate gratitude, kindness and compassion, reconnecting on a daily basis with their core purpose. And for a number of leaders, this has helped them to fall back in love with their work again. And I'm reminded here of Rachel Horn from Mount Street Academy in Lincolnshire, who said to me over the course of the first lockdown in particular, she, in her words, lost her mojo. She felt that she was maybe in the wrong job. And through some of the practices that I've been doing, and we'll get a little bit of an experience of them over the next half hour, she says she's fallen back in love with her work again, and it has made all the difference to everything. So as Rasmus Hugard and Jacqueline Carter say in their new book, which is well worth reading, it's just come out, Compassionate Leadership, they say leadership development begins inside. And I firmly believe it does. They say leadership is an inner as well as an outer practice. Effective leadership requires us to be skilled at having a strong relationship with our inner world as well as our outer world. So that's what I want to focus on this afternoon. So let me start by showing a few slides now as we move towards the theme of my session, which is around renewal. And I will take a closer look at compassion as a key part of leadership renewal. So I'll share a few slides with you. Here we go. Okay, so why a focus on renewal? Well, this is work from Boyatzis and McKee, who've written a terrific book called Resonant Leadership. Looks at hope, compassion and mindfulness, being aware and attentive. And they say we need more than rest and relaxation. At these times, that is not enough. We need renewal to sustain ourselves. It is an art and it's a practice. And resonant leaders are like tuning forks. They are open, aware, they're chief noticers. They're not blinkered or shut down by the demands that the world places on them. They're not armoured against all these things that come at us on a daily basis, some of which we're completely unprepared for. How many staff are going to be sick today? How many children are going to be in? And so on and so forth. And unless we practice renewal, it's very easy to slide from resonance as a leader, like a tuning fork, to dissonance, not really there, going through the motions in our leadership. So one leader described to me each day, he said, I feel like the skimming of stones across the river. Have you ever played that as a child? Yes, my dad taught me to do that. He said, but the difference is that I'm the stone. I catapult myself into the day. I skim across the day, barely aware, going through the motions. Sometimes I reach the other bank safely. Sometimes I don't. I get home. My partner says to me, how was today? And I say, give me a minute, because you know what? I can barely remember. So this is why we need to practice renewal in order to counter the effects of power stress, which you've all been suffering from for at least 2 years. The effects of power stress do not allow the body, heart and mind to flourish, and even the spirit may start to wane. That's where burnout comes, where we fall into the sacrifice syndrome. If it's got to be done, it's all down to me. And I'm sure that's a feeling that many of you have at the moment. So how do we cultivate resonance? How do we cultivate renewal? So there are 3 keys to renewal. One is awareness, being fully here, attentive, present. We've heard the word presence quite a bit today, being able to be with whatever is happening and still be okay in our core. Hope, connected with our core purpose, going back to our core purpose constantly, which keeps us hopeful at times when we seem to be pulled away from that, because the sort of tasks we're asked to engage with are not those that give us life. And so much of the last 2 years we have had to, as leaders, some of us, and completely understandable, adopt more of a command and control style of leadership to keep the school safe, to make those constant decisions. And much of what has given us hope and joy was being with the children, hearing their voices, listening to them sing, being with our staff, having a bit of a laugh at the beginning and the end of the day. But of course, during periods of lockdown, we didn't get any of that. So as one head teacher said to me, now is the time to start replenishing our reservoirs of hope. And that is about leaning in to that which gives us joy, leaning into that which nourishes us, and cultivating and rekindling hope through connection with our core purpose. And thirdly, compassion, which is the spirit of this conference. Obviously, been some great presentations on this so far, and I'll touch a bit on compassion in a moment in terms of what's connecting with the leaders I'm working with and how they're applying that to the work in their schools. So together, these 3 keys cultivate renewal, resonance, and resilience in leaders. And the work that I do rests on 3 elements. One is a personal practice, a cultivation of the inner world through mindfulness, through micro meditation, through really giving ourselves time to stop and go inward. The second is integrating these habits into our leadership on a daily basis. And then the third is embedding what we're learning into the school culture. So I thought it was probably worth starting with a practice and doing a little practice with you so you can experience it. And as I move into this, I wanted just to mention what has been really quite liberating for a lot of the leaders I'm working with, which is finding micro moments of renewal. And I think, Gail, you mentioned the 40 seconds. So I'll certainly go and look at that TED talk, and thank you for that. And micro moments of renewal and attentiveness comes when we stop, when we cultivate stillness, when we find a pause in the midst of the busyness of the day, and give ourselves permission to do that. And stillness is becoming increasingly important in terms of a leadership renewal practice. And a couple of quotes there. One from Ryan Holiday, great surname there. Stillness is the key. He says, the power of being still is especially important at times of adversity. And Karen Lawson, who works on anxiety recovery programs in the US, says simply being still is a way of replenishing our stores. It's an anti-stress fix. She also says it's a way of laying down fuel for the flight. In other words, we lay down fuel for the next moments of our day. So I'm going to invite you to join me in a practice. It'll be 2 or 3 minutes only. Do as much as you want. Be curious. The experience is the experience. There's nothing fancy or weird about it. But let's do a practice of coming into stillness and experiencing a micro pause. So you can turn your cameras off if they're on. I'll be practicing with you. It'll be quite quick, but it'll just give you a little sense of the power of practice, giving it to yourself. Because when you're calm and balanced, others around you will be so. Okay. So, I'm sure you're all sitting at the screen, so look away from the screen if your eyes are open, or just nice soft downward gaze. All stillness and all insightfulness starts with giving ourselves a stable base, like a mountain, when the world threatens to throw us off course. So this is very simply cultivated by putting both feet on the floor. Already we begin with a posture of courage, of confidence. So both feet on the floor, if your feet are crossed, I invite you to do that. We do have a torch beam of attention, which we can place wherever we choose to place it. Often it's outward, often it's in the mind. We invite you to take that torch beam down to your feet. And really sense your feet on the floor. Open up all your senses. When we open up all our senses, we become embodied. We come into the body. When we're in the body, we can be nowhere else but in the present moment. This is the cultivation of leadership presence. Already your mind will be pulling, questioning, commenting, running ahead, thinking about this morning. That's what the mind does. It's natural. When that happens and you're lost in thought, which happens many times during the day, it erodes our well-being, it's exhausting. Bring your torch beam of attention from your head back to your feet, back into your body. Let's travel up the body to the backside on the chair. Again, wherever your body touches something solid is an anchor point for you. Throw it down at any point in the day. Slight pause, throw down your anchor, become stable and balanced. And then inviting you as you sit, and this is a lovely posture to take in a meeting. The practice of presence starts with posture, and you can practice this at any point. Bring your back away from the back of the chair and slightly lift your spine. This is where we hold our values, our core principles. our kindness, curiosity. So bring it away from the back of the chair. It's the posture of noble intent. Feel that nice strong back, and then open up your front, let your bellies go. So much of our day we clench, we armour ourselves against what the world is bringing to our door. Then we erode our presence, and others can feel it and see it in us. And we talk often in school leadership when we do this work about leaders with strong back, soft front, tough on issues, kind on people. So as you take this posture now, just for another minute or so, I'm going to take us to the breath, which is another powerful anchor. Invite you to bring your torch beam of attention to the breath, very gently, not forcing anything, wherever you feel the breath most vividly. Might be at the nostrils, the back of the throat, the belly. And you might want to simply note in, out. Just simply doing that helps to tether the scattered mind to the anchor of the breath. Very simply, the breath is an incredibly powerful antidote to stress. Importantly, the out breath. The out breath really helps to deregulate and downplay stress hormones. So try that, a slightly longer out breath. And as you do, just let your shoulders drop on each out breath. Almost like you're carrying heavy shopping bags, you're letting them go. All those burdens, all those responsibilities. Again, a bit of a weather eye on the mind. Jumping, pulling, distracting. That's what it does. Give yourself a break. Come back to the breath. And now finally, inviting you to notice that tiny pause between the out breath and the in breath. Not forcing anything, not holding the in breath. Tiny micro pause. Imagine there's a little cushion there, and each time that breath comes around, the out breath, pause. Imagine yourself just plopping yourself down on that cushion. Like a, where's my body? Where's my mind? Micro moment of complete stillness. Be saying to yourself, nothing to do, nowhere to go. Micro moment of renewal. Then the breath will come again. And that's the practice.
10 years.
So if you'd like to just take another breath or so and open up your cameras, we'll come back together. And perhaps if you want to, just be good to know, just for a minute, drop into the chat. I'll put the slides down actually so we can see the chat. Just drop into the chat how that was. What was the experience? That micro moment of stillness, a micro moment of pause. It's a moment of renewal. That's the practice of renewal. So just pop into the chat, anything, word or phrase. Thank you. I'll just watch these as they come up. Thank you. All right, lovely. And you can do this any time of the day. Thank you. Great, nice to see. So there we are. So let me move on to look at the importance of the power of compassion in the cultivation of renewal. So I'll start sharing my screen again. And let's see where this takes us. Okay. So, practicing compassion helps us to reconnect with our core purpose. It does have that dual function. And it's worth looking at these words from Dame Alison Peacock, who heads up the Chartered College of Teaching in England. And I know for me, these were just so resonant, and I felt so pleased that we were talking about this in England. But if you look at some of those leadership dispositions that Alison says are key to compassion: openness, trust, empathy, putting that before compliance, putting that before complying with others' expectations, and how schools were the first places to cultivate supported recovery. And we can do this if we're inspired by colleagues, if ourselves are inspiring colleagues with courage and moral purpose. So the practice of compassion is the practice of moral purpose in action. And that's why it's important. Let me give you a couple of examples from some large groups of schools in England to see how this looks in practice. One is the Bedford Education Schools Trust, where they now have a new value. We have the courage to be compassionate. It's not soft and fluffy, as we've already heard this morning. It's warrior-like work. It connects us with our authenticity. And sometimes it means taking the harder road. And it does require courage. So the work I'm doing with this trust, and it's really interesting, is looking at what do compassionate-based approaches look like to inspection? What does the aftercare to inspection look like? What does a mindful and compassionate-based approach to performance management look like? Or to behaviour management look like? And I loved what David said this morning, connection before correction. That's it. So it's about the lens that we're looking through. This is not extra work. This is about the lens that we're looking through. And in terms of performance management, Trevor mentioned I was at the National College for School Leadership. And when I ran, we had our performance management conversations, there were only 2 questions that I asked. The first was, what brings you alive at work? And how can we help you to cultivate more moments when you're alive? In other words, what lifts your spirits at work? The second question was, are we getting the best of you? In other words, I know you have massive potential. Are we getting the best of you? And very often the immediate answer was, yeah, of course. And then a pause, I waited, they waited. Then they'd often say, maybe not all the time. Then we have the beginnings of an authentic, compassionate, deep listening, mindful conversation. So, and then focused trust, which is another trust that I work with. And I mentioned this in the little practice that we did. They have one mantra all the time: tough on issues, kind on people. That's compassionate leadership, but it's not easy. But if we keep practicing it and naming this as our intent, it becomes more and more real and more obvious to everyone. So this really resonates with the leaders I work with. How does compassion work? Well, in organisations, it flows. And it flows like a 3-legged stool. And this comes from Kirsten Neff's work on self-compassion. And she says this, just look at these statistics. And I'm interested to know whether they resonate with you. 78% of us find it easy to show compassion to others, particularly children and young people, particularly to show compassion to children and young people in our schools. 16% of us find it easy to receive compassion from others. And this gets lower the more senior positions that we're in. You know, oh, Trevor, you're looking a little tired today. Are you okay? Oh, no, I'm fine. The response is, you know what, a bit, but I'll be okay. And thank you for asking. So we want to allow others to offer us compassion, and that all depends on how we receive it. And 6% of us find it easy to be compassionate to self. Very few of us practice self-compassion. And therefore, if that's the case for leaders, which it is, we are blocking the flow of compassion in our own organisations. No one wants to do that. So it starts with self. It starts with self-compassion. Let me bring the slide down and just ask again in the chat those statistics. In terms of 78% of us find it easy to be compassionate to others. 16% of us find it easy to receive compassion from others. And 6% of us find it easy to be compassionate to ourselves. Just again, pop in the chat just to see if that resonates with you and you think, yeah, that's me. Yes, just pop a yes. If sort of, but not entirely. Actually, I give myself a lot more self-compassion with that. So not really. Let's just see what comes up. Oh. Yeah, just look at these. Oh, getting better. Good, Hayley. Yeah, it all comes with practice. Okay. Oh, all right. So as you're looking at that, this doesn't take extra work. Let me introduce you to Beverly Riddle of Morton Trenside Primary School in Lincolnshire. She does this, and it's very similar to Gail's 40 seconds. She says this: every day now, when I come into the office, I arrive into school in the morning, and before I switch on my computer, I deliberately pause. I ground myself. I focus on my breath. I come into my body. I become wholly present. It's only for a moment, but doing this every morning reminds me to do this at any time in the day when I'm feeling overwhelmed or hampered by self-doubt. I say this: I am Beverly, fully in touch with who I am and my principles. I'm doing the best I can right now, and I'm secure in this. I'm doing the best I can right now, and that's okay. That's Beverly being kind to herself. 40 seconds. She does it every morning. Not like Tracy, who's also in Lincolnshire, who, when I was doing a workshop with her and her team, we had a short break, and I invited them as they went to boil the kettle to resist the impulse to reach for the phone or to do just yet one other little task, but to stand, feel their feet, find the pause, breathe, renew themselves in the 45 seconds it takes for the kettle to boil, then come back to the Zoom. When Tracy came back, she said, Maggie, that's the first time I have had a hot cup of tea throughout my entire headship experience. Should I never boil the kettle fully? Lukewarm, enough, haven't got time, I'll have a lukewarm cup of tea or coffee, and even better, I can drink it really quickly. So let's not be like Tracy. So let's have a look then at the impact of compassion in organisations, because we are evidence-informed organisations, we are evidence-informed leaders, and we do want to know, will it make a difference? What sort of difference will it make? So let me show you this and see if this resonates with you. Okay. Okay. So the impact, have a look at those. This comes from the King's Fund, and of course, Michael this morning also gave us a lot more impact. I mean, it's incredible the sort of impact that we're seeing now in organisations as a result of the practice of compassion. So let's just look at those. Just look through them. Then I want to pick up just a couple. So these are our own ambitions. This is what we want our organisations to achieve. So working in this way that we're hearing about today and prioritising compassion, and if we're going to prioritise compassion in our organisations, we start by prioritising our self-kindness and self-compassion, then this will happen. It helps us to achieve what we're already committed to with greater authenticity, and at the same time cultivate significant additional benefits for you and your staff. I want to pick up the increases organisational collaboration, which came up in the survey we heard earlier, that people really want to see greater collaboration and less competition. So compassion has got a role in that. And the second one, because it came up in a question, I think, this morning about trust. And it does increase trust, which in itself is proven to enable greater capacity to improve. If you don't know that research, it's the research of Brick and Schneider, Trust in Schools, where they looked at two groups of schools in Southside Chicago that were very, very similar in terms of socioeconomic factors and so on. But one group of schools were outperforming the other schools really significantly, and they just couldn't understand why. And they spent time in those schools, and they realized that the group of schools that was outperforming consistently the other group had greater levels of trust. And they concluded that schools with higher levels of trust have got a greater capacity to continue to improve. Because there's resilience, there's renewal, there's noticing, there's resonance. So trust is a really important outcome of compassion, and trust is connected directly with the school's capacity to continue to improve. So I'm just wondering if we've got time for another little micro practice. I think we will. I think we will, and then I've got one more slide, because I know I've just got until 5 past, I think. Okay, so let's sit again for a moment, just for a moment. Bring your back away from the back of the chair, attend to your posture. You may have been hunched over the screen. Come upright. The more we come upright, the more we're aware of when the mind is leaning into the future and anticipating, planning, worrying, or leaning into the past, often beating ourselves up for something that didn't go quite right. So as we sit in this upright posture, I would often encourage leaders to not borrow trouble from tomorrow, when tomorrow hasn't even come. We spend a lot of time doing that, and it erodes our well-being. Instead, we cultivate self-kindness, compassion. So let me just invite you, as we sit in a moment of stillness, to go back to your core purpose. As you settle on your breath, let me ask you, what really matters to me right now? What really matters to me right now? And you'll notice your mind will jump for an answer. Keep your senses open. Stay open to any emotion or any feelings that emerge. What really matters to me right now? And then the second question, again, just to let that land and see what sort of arises. Second question. So how do I choose to be in these times? Relation to my core purpose. So how do I choose to be in these times? Again, let that come as a mood or a thought, an emotion. Notice the mind scurrying around, maybe rejecting some things and running after others. Just slow it down, keep the breath going. And then thirdly, so what burden do I choose to let go of? So what burden do I choose to let go of? Again, maybe drop your shoulders with this question, like you're dropping heavy shopping bags. What burden do I choose to let go of? Be kind to myself. What really matters to me right now? Who do I choose to be in these times? What burden do I choose to let go of? Just see what arises. If nothing arises, that's fine. Staying steady on the breath. Nice long out breath, staying open. Okay, so let's come back into the space. And again, if you'd like to, out of curiosity, before I just show one more slide and I hand over to back to Trevor, what came up there? Anything around what matters, or what you choose to let go of, or how you choose to be? Seeing how maybe the influence of this conference so far is starting to sort of seep in a little. So let's see. That's a nice one to start us off. Thank you. Just pop them in. What really matters to me? Who do I choose to be? What do I choose to let go of? These are lovely. Yeah, lovely. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, lovely. Great. Thank you. Yeah, self-doubt has been such a huge area in these times. Good advice there, Lucy. Thank you. All right, keep them coming in while I just show the last slide. We have heard again today about the importance of it's all in the small things. So let me end with this slide because it is all in the small things. It's in the small daily actions. Okay, so we cultivate renewal through the smallest of actions. And for me, this is about continually pivoting towards our purpose. We have a choice in every moment. We can pivot towards the person we have chosen to be and respond wisely, or we can allow our emotions to drive us and we can pivot towards irritation. It all happens in a micro moment. This is not extra work. This is in our DNA and how we are. So we pivot towards purpose, asking, how do I want to be? Or how do I choose to be? I prefer to use in this moment. And this final quote from Jon Kabat-Zinn, I think is powerful. And every moment gives us an opportunity to choose compassion and kindness. Every moment of now is a branch point. We do not know what will happen next. So every present moment is full of possibility and potential. If we are fully present for this moment, then that naturally takes care of the next moment. We can stop borrowing trouble from tomorrow. If we really want to take care of the future, the only way to do that is to take care of this moment, the branch point. How we are in relation to it fully makes all the difference. So the grounding, the pause, self-kindness, self-compassion, cultivated daily through the smallest of actions in terms of our pivoting towards our purpose. And that's how we cultivate and practice the art of renewal. So thank you so much for your time, your attention, your engagement, your comments in the chat. Again, Tegwyn, Trevor, thank you for the invitation. It's just lovely being with you.